back to the North Pole and start making some noise.
Everyone loves it.
Princess Peach or Toad.
Like, what am I watching, man?
Digging the hat. Hey, Dan, how you doing, man?
Yeah, how you doing? Sorry I'm late.
Tilt your head down for a split sec. I just got to see it.
Oh, it's North Melbourne Kangaroos, the Aussie football league.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It was a gift from when we toured through Australia, and I like wearing it because it's the one sports hat I can wear that won't create controversy among people on the street. So
most people are probably like, who the hell is that?
Exactly. It's really nice.
Yep. Watch everybody just like a Koalas fan going down the other side of the street on the sidewalk being like, you bastard.
Well, that's the funny thing, because we toured through Australia a second time, and I just wear this hat all the time. And they were like, North Melbourne, like, how dare you, So it's all,
like, are they like not a very good team or something? Or
they're actually terrible at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I think they might be the worst team in the league, which I'm getting used to rooting for these days.
Dude,
hey,
I know.
Some of the best sports movies in the world were about like the worst teams, the Indians, the Cubs, all of them.
Classics.
Yeah.
The Oakland A's are basically living out the plot of Major League in real life right now.
I feel terrible for them, man. Like, I feel bad for those fans. When you're in a sports city and you know the team's leaving, it's just like,
yeah,
it's like watching someone you love like die in front of you.
Oh,
yeah.
Although in that case, you don't necessarily throw things at the person that's dying, but
True. It's not a one-to-one
saying sell the team. Yeah.
Dan, your video is a little on the fuzzy side. I don't know if it's a lighting thing or a camera thing.
No, it's my fault. I get this all the time. I don't have a good system yet set up over here. It's just my laptop, and I don't know if this actually does anything, but I put a piece of tape over the little camera to keep from getting spied on. I thought I was a conspiracy theorist until I saw Mark Zuckerberg doing it, and I was like, all right, I better do this. But it has left a thin, gross film over the lens that I can't clean off.
We'll fix it in post. It's fine.
Cool.
See if we can put a filter over it.
Yeah, just gotta get some BB gun and just like rub that off.
Yeah, I always like look like I'm coming from like a magical fairyland. So
we're just taking it back to like your stoner days and be like, that's just all haze.
Yeah. Sorry. Welcome to my hot box.
Right. How you doing otherwise though? Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Everything's cool. You're catching me at a real like downswing in my moments with the team. Like I'm such an optimist by nature that as soon as something good happens, I'm like, here we go, turning point for the better. And then just like this season in particular is just like an immediate smackdown every time you get your hopes up.
So what you're saying is we're cursing the team by having these conversations.
No, they're doing it themselves.
I know we were going to talk a lot of NYCFC and everything, and obviously, Maxime Chenot was gone, Maxi Morales is back. We talked about Maxi the last time, and the struggle that's existed with this team, and the likelihood they're probably not going to make the playoffs unless they can somehow pull out a 6-game winning streak in the last 6, including beating Messi down in Florida. But you know what, though? I'll say this, despite everything, the fans still have energy. The writers, Trey, I mean, I had to ask you, basically, did you see the picture of Trey with that cat the other day?
Yeah, I love that guy. He's the best.
Dude, that was such a cute kitten. I was so excited. So cute.
Everyone needs one.
But it's...
Well, you have your cat pictures too, Scott.
Yes, I do. I have a 3-legged cat. But it was one of those things that he knows Trey, Phil Moore, one of the sports writers, and Trey is currently fostering a cat. And it's this cute little black and white, like tuxedo kitten. It's probably about like yay big at this point. And oh my God. But that notwithstanding, it's been rough, even with the 1-1 draw that happened yesterday. But I don't know. What are you thinking right now?
Well, here's my optimistic spin on it. This team's given us a lot of good times in the past 7, 8 years. You know, they've been very consistent, with the exception of year one, for getting to the playoffs, making a good, honest run at it, and doing everything they can. And also, you know, not to be this guy, but like when they announced that the team was getting its own stadium at the beginning of the year, that in a way was almost bigger than winning another championship, you know, because there was the growing fear. I don't know if growing is, but there was a creeping fear for me that at some point these investors are just gonna peace out if this team can't get a stadium and can't really solidify itself in the New York area. So super big picture, I'm happy overall with, you know, the way the team is going, because as you know, I grew up a MetroStars fan, and like that was like a barren field of nothingness for so very long.
Yeah.
Like I
It was
remember
a giant stadium, I think, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
it was. With
There
like
were
10,000 people, which looks empty.
Oh, 10,000 would be a good day. There were times when there could not have been more than 3,000, 4,000 people there, sprinkled in an 80,000 seat stadium. So that's what I got used to growing up with this league. So from that perspective, NYCFC is doing a really good job, and the fans are awesome, and everything's cool. And with this last group of transfers that came in, Bakrar, Julian, like I'm certainly intrigued by their talent, and like with Bakar, like Bakrar, sorry, I'm still getting used to the names. He, you know, the ball explodes off his foot when he you know, kicks it to goal, and I'm like, oh God, that's what a striker feels like. That's right. And so there's that. Julian Fernandez, that's his name, right? Big tall kid.
The return transfer, yeah, not Pereira, but Fernandez.
Right. Pereira I like too, but I think he's short term. Fernandez looks like he has awesome potential. So and there's a couple of others, and it's great to have Maxi back. So I like, if they'd gotten this set of players earlier in the season, I mean, who knows if that was a possibility or not. I think I would have felt better. There's just, I don't know, there's weird things that happen around this team that I'm just not privy to, you know. Like Tati's going to leave, but then he doesn't leave, and now he's maybe annoyed, but he's gone. But now Ronnie's gone, you know, like
at the same time, pretty much too.
Yeah, and Chanot is another one where it's just like big things happen out of nowhere, and I mean, granted, maybe as a fan, you're not supposed to know these things, or it's not your business really, but like
a lot of it is inside locker room dumb stuff.
I'm sure, but like at least, and maybe it's just like the more intense coverage, but at least with football, or the Giants, which is the other team I really follow, it feels like you can see things coming a little bit, you know? But with NYCFC, they're just enormous. Like, you have to say goodbye to players you've loved for years out of nowhere. They're just gone. Like, and it's not with Chanot, it's not during like a transfer window or anything like that. He's just, one day he's like, bye. Very, very reminiscent of when Dyla left.
Yeah. You know, it's funny on this side, and Trail back me up, and Michael Allen and all the rest. You get to know these guys directly. You know, when you start seeing naked players, you really get to know them pretty well. But
I'm sorry, wait, what?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, when you're
being in the locker room and
you know,
just
kicking butts all the time.
It's interesting trying to talk to somebody with their junk hanging out.
Yeah, thank you. But it's rumor has it
down.
that Chanot left because of an issue with the captaincy. You know, where there was
an
issue.
Really?
That's what we were hearing on the inside. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's supposedly it was a falling out, definitely a falling out between him and Nick Cushing, because Nick Cushing addressed it in the press conference, and then Chanot tweeted about it, you know, about the response. So it's starting to get really kind of weird there. But on our side of it, you know, you get to know these guys for a while. You know, when Thiago left earlier in the year, Thiago Andra, you know, when Malte Amundsen, I liked Malte. you know, and he went to Columbus. It's like you build these rapports, you get to know these guys for a couple of years, you laugh, you ask questions, you get to know them, and they're on another side of the planet, you never see them again. And it sucks on our side, but it's funny because at the same time, you also get to see them as the humans that they are, and not the jersey and the field talents. Very a lot closer as a result. I think it's a good thing in some ways, but it's tougher at the same time when they go.
For sure. And Pereira was the other one that I forgot, but like just
that was quick.
You're 1 minute, gone the next. And I think that's my biggest concern going forward, because if maybe it's tough to have a greater plan when you have a setup like New York City and the hierarchy of City Football Group, where there's always so much movement. But with moves like Pereira leaving, it feels like, at least as an NYCFC fan, it feels like they're now going back on the plans that they set in motion. You know, that was sorry to keep bringing it back to the Giants, but that's an easy way for me to like put it in my mind. The Dave Gettleman tenure of general manager. Yeah, I know it was rough.
The blink and you miss it.
Yeah, and like, oh no, I disagree. I think it lasted way
No,
too.
it lasted dramatic.
Listen, you want to blink and forget it. It's just
Of course.
And ending with a culmination of a quarterback sneak on your own 4-yard line.
Oh, you want to drink and forget it. But like the reason I bring it up is because when he came in, he was like, new sheriff in town, you know, gonna clear house, start fresh. And so he did that, cleaned a lot of house, brought a lot of new guys in. And then within a year or two, he's cleaning out the guys he brought in, you know, and that's a little bit like what it feels like. It's like, I think the frustration of the NYCFC fan right now is we had this team in 2021 that was so awesome, just like a really special collection of players. And if you lose one, like Castellanos, who we all knew was one of the greater things, it's like, okay, you have this template. It's really strong and clear what everyone's role is. You lost your striker. Just go out and get a great striker and plug him in, you know. And now it got so cleaned out that you're sort of trying to like build the team from scratch again. And you have all these great players, I think great players, or at least with a lot of potential, but you don't know how they fit. And it just makes it really like muddy and hard to know what's on Cushing, like what he could have done to, or who knows, you know. It just feels like a mess with no clear direction.
With any kind of losing team, I think that just some of this is bound to happen just in the course of, you know, it doesn't matter what the sport, what the team, who the coach is, whatever. I think Charles Barkley said that winning is the deodorant that is the deodorant that covers up the stink of issues in the locker room or between players, chemistry, player versus coach, whatever.
That's a 24-hour activity.
Yeah. Right, exactly. These are, you know, like any job where you're around, you know, a certain group of people all the time. Not everybody's going to like each other. Like that happens. And if, you know, work sucks, you know, in this case, your team is losing, you know, that's just going to make it even worse. I mean, yes, it's easy for us to say, you know, oh, they just didn't get it done last night or whatever, but these are still humans in the unique position where their job is, you know, on public display for millions of people, and their salaries are public, and it's a much higher pressure environment.
And they're half our age.
Yes, and also for NYCFC, part of the thing of, oh, what's next? What is their academy system like? You know, for I write on the Philadelphia Union, so they have a big academy system, but you know, with independent ownership versus this City Football Group hierarchy. What is the NYCFC 2 and academy programs like? You know, is there like somebody coming up through the pipeline, you know, that could maybe plug in, or are they not there yet?
Right.
You know,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, no,
Yeah,
I'll put it down to you if you want to roll with that verse.
Yeah.
I think the big fear would be you look at Philly versus New York and how different their systems are set up. And right now, it's certainly easy to be envious of Phillies because not only are they having success in a sustained way, but also they hold on to the players that you care about, and I don't know. I think the fear for me is that in 2015, 2016, those years, it was Manchester City and then New York City.
Mhm.
And now it's clear that Corona and maybe another team that they've bought like, 7 teams since then. And I think the general consensus is that New York is maybe 4th in that pecking order. Maybe that'll go higher with Messi in the league. Maybe
I was about to say that.
yeah, maybe it bumps up with the stadium as well. But that's still years away. So the thing that would certainly suck is to just keep getting bumped down the ladder and get into a situation where you feel kind of like Red Bulls fans feel, where they're like, we have essentially absentee ownership, which like they want to make money and they want to sell players and they care to that degree, but whether their main goal is winning cups is questionable. And I was starting to get nervous until they brought in these new players, but I have to feel that if we were higher up on the ladder, these players or players of that caliber would have come in at the first transfer window and we'd maybe be in 4th, instead of 13th.
I think also the fact that here in the New York City area, NYCFC is so low on the radar. Yankees, Mets, Giants, Jets, Rangers, I'll throw my Devils into it even in this case too.
Even the Red Bulls have their own
NYCFC
stadium.
Yeah. That's the other side of it too. You're not.
I think a lot will change at the stadium. With the new stadium, I think things will change a lot.
Hopefully
from an ownership standpoint.
But
I still think Steve Cohen eventually buys the team. Especially when they move to when that stadium happens.
Wow, that'd be wild.
At this point, I think actually Uncle Stevie, like it or not, has really tried to put a good product on the field for the Mets. It didn't work this season very, very clearly, but he just threw money at it.
Right. But he knew when to quit and just pulled the plug and said, all right, we're going to next year or 2 years from now. I respect that more than doubling down on stupid.
By the way, Dan, I have a question for you, but first I haven't done this proper. That's Ryan. He handles all of the cinema stuff that we do, wrestling. He also worked with Keith Apicary, obviously one of Nathan's 82 different personas in this case.
That's the best.
To which basically, obviously, you're working with Nathan too on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we're going on tour next week.
Yeah. Canada.
Yeah. At least when you saw him with his shirt off, with everything he's been doing with dad bod and boxing, he looks a lot better now than when I saw him. So
he's beastly, that guy.
Yeah, no. When I saw him, he was hair all over the place where there was still little, and when he lovingly embraces another shirtless man, it don't look right. But now he's probably good.
Hey, he's 2-0. Dad is 2-0 now.
He's a wonderful guy and a very, very good boxer. Who knew? He really cares.
It's always the wiry ones. You never expect.
Yeah, but
look at Aaron.
His dance system, his dance style that he's had for so long, I think helps him a lot when it comes to this. It's almost like Prince Nazim, if you want to go back to that boxing style years ago. But that first fight that he had last year, where it was 22-second KO, that was just brutal.
yeah, he went off on that, and it was he's I think because of his dance style, like you were talking about, he's injured himself so much that he's just used to pain in a lot of ways. I remember one time I think he broke his foot or he had some issue with his foot, and he was like, "Yeah, I tried to roll down a hill," and it was, but just going on about his day, like when a dog breaks a leg or something, they're clearly in pain, but they're like, what are you gonna do? And then they're fine like a month later.
As long as I get to my kibble, it's good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was your question, Scott?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Supposedly, correct me if I'm wrong, but were you at a Union game the other day?
Philly. I was at a DC United game.
DC United. Okay, yeah, because we weren't sure.
Okay.
Where were you? DC versus who?
It was DC versus Philly.
It was DC versus. Okay.
Oh, that game, the Leagues Cup game, or the one in DC.
It was the one in DC. I try when I was in town to see family, or in Jersey to see family, and then my buddy and I took a road trip down to DC. I'm trying to see every MLS stadium. I've gotten to about half of them so far. But I mean, Audi Field is nice. It's a lot nicer than RFK was.
Okay.
I've heard good things about Audi Field. I haven't made it down to DC yet. The last 2 years, I've had it on the calendar, and then something happens where just trying to make the trip down just doesn't work out.
It's fun. I like the games, especially when the team I care about is not great. I like going to neutral games because it's very relaxing, and all the Philly fans are chanting annoying things to the DC fans, and I'm like, it's funny when it's happening to someone else.
Right, like the Red Bull games are a different level of energy, and that's something that NYCFC Union we can all agree on is screw the Red Bulls, or at least we're not really, there is no love lost between the teams. I don't know if you saw Jim Curtin went on a long rant after the press conference after their Leagues Cup round of 16 game, just saying that he was just tired of their shenanigans for a team as bad as they are that we've beaten for 5 years in a row.
Jim Curtin, I mean, obviously you grow a healthy distaste for him because
it's understandable.
When he's happy, you're sad. That's just how sports are. But I do love his Philliness. He is not afraid to say whatever thing comes into his mind. He's not politically correct about it. I like that quality for sure.
It's so fun covering him because if I really need a quote, like there's always something there.
Yeah. For sure. No, he's good for the league, and I wish he'd been hired as the national coach because I think he's good. I think his players love him, and it would have been cool to get him out of Philly.
I admit I do not understand bringing Berhalter back. Like, absent all of the other off the field garbage with him and the Reina family. Like, just tactically on the field, I did not see reason to bring him back for another World Cup cycle. Even with just on the field, just everything was blah, and they played better with the interim coach.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is for me. Like all the tabloid stuff, like that doesn't really move the needle for me one way or the other as far as like being a coach. But we saw what he can do. Like we've already seen it. I believe in the 1 4-year cycle for each coach. Because I just don't know how he's I don't maybe because the games will be at home in the next World Cup, but I don't see us getting past a team like the Dutch, who eliminated us last time. And you could, like in the game versus Iran, it was like, wow, we got him. We won that game with a fairly evenly matched team. But then you get against the Netherlands and you're like, oh my God, there's a long way to go. So I wouldn't mind having picked a coach with some new ideas.
Yeah. There and
and
even still, never like even Union fans aren't happy with Jim. Like sometimes it's like after the game against Miami in the Leagues Cup semis, there was a lot. Every fan base questions their coach, especially when the team loses.
Soccer has less patience though than the rest of the other sports, I think.
Yes, I'd say.
Remember, especially they want to fire Ronnie Dylo when he won the cup. It's like, get him out.
Right, but Ronnie also knew he had the chance, and he bailed before things would turn. For anybody that does that, I respect that, especially in a game like this, where look at the guy in Portland. His name escapes me. Where they went from Savarese, and he just got fired. They were in the leagues. They were in the MLS Cup final against NYCFC not even 2 years ago, and they already tossed him. It's a very short. It's a very short memory. But also in worldwide in soccer, it's common. Like in Europe, they sack coaches every year, just about.
Meanwhile, you talk about having Dave Gettleman for however many years that we had in football.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We rotate coaches constantly. But
it's the way, and it's all in the way you look at it. I personally, soccer is the more I watch it, the more mysterious it becomes in a lot of ways. Because that last year, 2022, with NYCFC, they went through a terrible spell of losing tons of games and still had, Maxi Collins, the whole core outside of Tati. And then I can't even remember what it was, but like one good thing happened in one game, and then they were off to the races. And I remember thinking, man, soccer is a lot more psychological than I thought it was. And I wonder how much of that is going on with this team currently. And it's hard to know because there's so much turnover. There's so much change of coaching. And like you just don't know where the blame lies for a season where you win 5 or 6 games. And out of so many games, there's so many, there's like 30 games and we've won like 6. So that's not good. No, I don't know what else to say, really.
I had a really good conversation with Nick Cushing. I alluded to this, I think, in one of the emails. It was supposed to be like 10 minutes. It ended up being about 35 minutes. Me and him, no cameras, just the two of us. Like him or hate him, there is no one in this organization feeling this pain more than that man is. It was so heartfelt that when they lost to Minnesota, like right afterwards, I straight up cried for the man, because it was one of those things where you feel his pain, and the challenge that he's got. And obviously, weirdly enough, being about 9 years younger than I was, I felt for him a little bit as a younger guy going through all of this and seeing, the signs and the banners. Ironically, when I was driving up to the stadium on Wednesday, the Cushing Lee out sign that you've seen, occasionally, that was outside of the parking garage right there before I hadn't even driven into the parking garage to the stadium, and I already saw it, and it's like, from a human perspective, you kind of wonder a little bit how that's got to affect you. And I feel for the guy.
Yeah, I'm very reluctant to. I'm real careful with my words, to always say like I should talk about people's performances rather than the people themselves, because like it's very it's not the easiest time in the world to be any kind of public figure, like is you in the 80s you'd see people who were quote unquote famous, and they look like they were having a great time, like they just were always smiling, always waving, and now it's like, no one, because we're sort of living in a surveillance state, with so many cameras and so many opinions coming at you from all sides. And when you crowdsource enough opinions, you're going to see some really hurtful shit. And sorry for cursing on your podcast.
Shit's fine.
Cool. So
YouTube has a problem. We'll find out. But
yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. It's very easy, especially with sporting figures. It's very easy to just think of them as like action figures, and not as people, because you don't see the human side of them. Anytime you see them being interviewed, it's always about sports, and generally you're catching them in a super emotional moment right after a loss, where like they might say something that they wouldn't say if they were able to take a couple breaths, and especially in a season like this, where it's just basically a slog from day one to day whatever it is. Just this 9-month long excruciating thing, and they have to get in front of people and answer the same questions about the same stuff, and those questions have the same answers, but they have to like try to put a slightly different spin every time, or else be accused of being quote unquote out of ideas, and it's very rough. And so I do feel for him. It's just the fan understands what the fan understands, and the clear delineation is this team was one thing up to a certain point, and then they became less than that, and that point happened to be right around the time Cushing got the head coaching job. Obviously, there were a million other things that happened, and you could say they gave him a championship team on day one, and then slowly took everything away piece by piece that made it a championship team. And the fans still expect, the same level. So I just don't know. I just don't know what the move is. I don't know if City Football Group thinks the same way the fans do, or even cares the same way. I just don't know. It's like it's all a mystery.
Well, basically in this case, how do you feel about your Giants this season? Season starts next week.
Yeah, that's a different that's a much different kind of team, because that's a team whose glory days were at least a decade ago. And the past 10 years, it's funny, I can't remember if I told you this last time I was on the podcast and you asked me about the Giants. When during the 2011 Super Bowl, the second one against the Patriots, Tom Brady throws that Hail Mary on the last play.
Yes.
And that ball hung up there for an eternity. And I just remember thinking, like, hey, God, like, if you let this ball hit the ground, I promise I won't be upset what happens with this team for the next 5 years. And it happened, and I stayed true to that. And then their suckage lasted for 10 years. I was like, oh, man, shouldn't have made that deal. So
God tacked on interest.
Yeah, he sure did.
That's normally how that works. Yeah.
So this last year was really encouraging. Nice to see the fans excited again. Dable and Shane give me lots of hope. I wish that the Giants sort of like coming back to life hadn't coincided with this even bigger Eagles renaissance. That's always gross. But like, I don't know. I'm happy. I'm happy that they matter again. I wouldn't be surprised if they took a little bit of a step back this year, because they won so many close games last year, and I get it. Like, they have to build the team slowly, because I'm just trying to think of the right way to say this. Like,
it's almost like they were a year ahead of schedule last year.
That's
so now they're
exactly
like, what now?
That's totally it. That's totally it. Like, they won more games than they quote unquote should have. And when Shane came in, I believe there's an interview on record where either it was him saying it or someone like a personal confidant that relayed the conversation. And he said, 2024, that's the year. Like, we're in cap hell right now, and it's going to take us 2 years to dig our way out of it. And in the meantime, let's try to see if we can win a couple games. And I think he's just been doing a phenomenal job. And I mean, even the Daniel Jones contract, who, regardless of how you feel about Jones as far as his abilities to win a Super Bowl, which is what really matters to this fan base anyway. It's $140 million or whatever it is. It's a lot of money. But it's structured in such a way that they're out scot-free in 2 years if things go sour, and if they go great, then they've sort of locked him in to a quote unquote pretty cheap rate as far as, the top quarterbacks go. And if he stays the same, then it's probably just a fair contract. So I just like the way he's doing things. Basically, what I know as a fan, and this applies to NYCFC too. Um, I know that I'm not that knowledgeable about how these things work. You know, I would be a terrible soccer manager. I would be a garbage football coach. You know, I don't like, I have that self-awareness. So I just don't want to feel like I know more than the people in charge, you know, when and when Gettleman was doing things, I was like, that's not gonna work. And then 2 years later, when it didn't work, I was like, this is freaking me out, man. I shouldn't be able to know this, you know? Um, and I guess Bakrar had an injury yesterday.
Nothing serious though.
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah.
how's Maxi? Do you know?
He's doing okay. Initial thoughts last I knew from the press conference last night is he said initial thoughts is it doesn't look serious. It probably looks serious when he's put on the cart, but his words, not mine. Initial thoughts is it does not look serious.
Oh man, it looked
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
It looked like the angle he got hit from, and like
Tiago Martins was on a cart like 2-3 months ago, and like a couple of weeks later he was back out again.
that's true. That's
So
true.
you know, the cart I think is a little different in soccer than it is in football. You know, you bring that cart out, you're done for the season in football.
Of course. I mean, it's soccer in general. Like, you know, you see a guy writhing in pain, and you're like, is he out for 3 months, or will he be sprinting 5 seconds from now?
Yeah.
You know?
There's so many ones I've seen where, like, yes, there's straight up flopping and embellishment, but there's also somewhere like, oh, that actually looked serious, and like he'll be out for a while, and then he jogs it out on the sidelines and is back 5 minutes later.
Just walk it off.
What?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's all over the place. Yet there's also players where somebody just brushes by them and they go down like they've just been shot.
I'm happy to hear that, because Maxi's the one guy who I really don't want to lose. Like, when he's on the field, you can just see the movement of everything is so much nicer, and it doesn't always go back to our own goalie to like, okay, let's start over. You know, it's so much less ponderous when he's out there. Him, Bakrar, and Risa too. Like, I really like Risa.
Yeah, he took the hit yesterday in the ankle, but he seems to be fine too.
Yeah. That pass that Bakrar scored the goal on against oh my god, I'm blanking who they just play.
Yeah, Yohei was his first name, I think.
No. Oh, what team did they play before yesterday?
Montreal.
Montreal. Thank you.
Montreal game, yeah.
Because when Bakrar scored that goal, I was like, wow, what kind of double move did he put to get the ball in front of the defender? And then I saw the top down, and it was Risa's pass that like curled in like perfectly around him. So he's I can't remember a guy who could pass like that out of the defense ever for NYCFC.
It gives you some hope for the future, especially after the season we've had. But this is also the second youngest team in the league, barely even. You know, I mean,
which is cool if they're going to grow together. But if they're going to turn 21 like Pereira and then bounce, then you know, hearing that they're young doesn't actually make me feel any better. You know.
True. And you mentioned something before about the fact that this team is, well, you equated it to fourth in CFG's hierarchy, because I mean you got Yokohama, I think that, you know, the team over in I think Auckland. So there's a lot of different teams under the CFG umbrella now. And as a result, it in some ways, you know, Girona, you know, Tati went over there, Alex Kynes went over there. So it's almost like this team is a breeding, you know, it's basically a training ground for the bigger leagues, if you will. And it's disheartening. Look, MLS has always kind of been like AAA soccer to the worldwide stage anyway, but this takes it to like an even bigger, like AA level, and it sucks.
I think it depends on the team or the season, you know. But also, I'm a college basketball fan, so like it's easy for me to translate. Like, oh, like there's players here for a time, and now it's sometimes even in just a year or two, and then gone on to greener pastures. It's a revolving door of players, so that translates to soccer a lot to think of it like that.
Yeah, and I'm also I think maybe the most disappointing thing about this season is Magno. Not I don't want to say like he's disappointed me. It's just that the fact that with someone with that amount of talent, like somehow the team can't make it work, and he's not even getting subbed in anymore. Like that's rough because I do remember, and I mean, I guess it's just like that hyper memory from like these moments that you really care about. In the MLS Cup game against Portland, the announcer, Tallis, is about to kick his penalty kick, and the announcer's like, Tallis Magno, one for the future, but this is about the here and now, And I remember thinking like, oh man, if we win this, how cool that we have like the next generation just lined up. And just with the way the season's gone, it's you just hope there aren't going to be too many more years like this,
He hasn't been the same since Totti left, because when him and Totti, he was, I think, second overall in assists when Totti left, because it was just this great tandem where you just feed one to the other. And yeah, like I said, in this case here, it's sad to see because he's not even getting playing time, and I think he's the fifth highest fifth highest salary on the team right now too. So there's a lot of money spent. He might be gone in the offseason.
Yeah, and you wonder if that's a Cushing thing too, and the thing where he's flipping off Chanot. And now neither one's on the field. Like there's a little bit of like, man, like who's running this chicken shack? Like it's just it's bizarre. It's bizarre that so many good players just either aren't on the team anymore or aren't playing for the team. I don't know. It's been a weird year.
Yeah. I want to respect your time a little bit. I don't know how much more time you've got, but I did want to talk a little SOU and music if you got a couple minutes.
Sure. Yeah, I've got like 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, last time we talked about SOU, I know you got into Gilgamesh recently too.
Gilgamesh, yeah,
Yeah, because it came up in your Zelda video just recently.
Wow.
We listened to it
with a lot of people.
we listened to that this morning, and it was actually really good. And
that's awesome.
And I definitely related to what you said about that with the about how they're like, oh, this one has billions of views, this one has 10,000. There was an album I listened to recently of like a new wavy type sound, and the album that some person had uploaded to YouTube had less than 100 views when I stumbled on it.
Yeah.
So I definitely relate to not having the normal normal quote unquote music tastes and the variety for playlist in our house for sure.
Sure, outside of the mainstream, and I think in a way that's been a big disservice that YouTube, Spotify, all these digital platforms have done for music, because even though they help the music get out there, I think just having a visual of how many people are listening to it gives popular music like a validity to it that seems I shouldn't say it like that. It makes really good shit that doesn't get a lot of plays seem less than, when in fact, when we were kids and you just put on an album, you just relate to it as music, and so I think it can make great pieces of art seem small. That's
and also especially when there's so much more out there now and so much more to find music. But for college radio, especially a place we were spoiled. I was honored to be a part of it with WSU. That brought more obscure, newer things to to the area. And now with technology, iHeartRadio and all, you can listen to any station from anywhere just about. It isn't related to what can I pick up with an antenna and a coat hanger from a radio in my bedroom. It's there's so much more out there, yet it still seems harder than ever to break through. But it's both good and I'm not in the industry per se, but it's both good and bad, I think.
Yeah, no, it's a wash. I totally agree. much easier to get your stuff heard, much more difficult to get compensated for it. um,
You
actually,
see all the
just
TikTok
as
artists now doing that sort of stuff now because that's how you get it out there. There's such a way that. Sorry, I don't mean to interject. I know I've been quiet this whole
no,
time.
no,
go
I,
ahead.
no,
No,
I actually,
absolutely.
I
Go
actually
ahead.
felt bad because I've been like yammering away.
No,
Please.
No, you're talking about your expertise. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't even know why you all were so angry about the Red Bulls, but that's just me being a Jersey guy. But yeah, as far as like music industry is concerned, and you have such an influx of material now because of like overseas stuff being able to cross over to the US, whereas back in the day
Mhm.
it was whatever you could get on a cassette or a CD, and now because of streaming, it gives the opportunity to have a lot of people go ahead and put their stuff out there, but it also gives people the opportunity to get overshadowed because either something hits the algorithm right or because someone has a more of a
Mhm.
homegrown fan base as opposed to somebody who's just doing stuff in their closet or their attic where they have the soundproofing where it probably sounds great and it's almost probably artistic in comparison to some of the more homogenized stuff that is out there. But all that matters is if you get that hook and people use it, that's what really matters nowadays. And it is more about like a popularity contest rather than what was art and what was simply just marketable on the Billboard Hot 100.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just its own set of struggles. It's never going to be easy making a living as an artist.
Yeah.
And
Although for
the
your defense, I will say I did get somebody hooked on NSP yesterday.
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
We were actually hanging out with our mutual friend JT down at the shore and everything. And on the way back, I was telling him about possibly going to be able to talk to you. He's like, "Yeah, I know that one song that they did with what was it? Sex Bomb." It's like, no, you're mixing up Sex Bomb from Scott Pilgrim.
Sex Bomb is
Oh,
Tom
yeah,
Jones.
yeah,
and Star Bomb, but
Yeah.
you don't know
Luigi's
NSP,
Ballad.
so-
He knew Luigi Ballad.
Oh, that's cool.
And
JT's
some of
a
it all
special
kind of
little
blends
guy,
together,
I will
like
say. Yeah,
and
so
some of
I
it all
got
kind
him
of
to
blends
listen to It's
together.
Bedtime from Prophecy. And
Yeah.
after that, we go through the whole album. He goes to Cool Patrol after that. And it's like, that's just the whole drive back up to the Edison area. So it's like, he's
That's
hooked
cool.
now.
Thanks, man. That means a lot. And like we are an example of a band that could have never succeeded in the 80s or 90s because no label would have signed us. The
Yeah.
internet allowed us to find our audience who has the same weird sense of humor that we do. But I think we would have been just way too left of center for any label to take a chance on, especially in the 90s where you would see so many bands release one album and then if it wasn't an immediate hit, the label would just shelve them and the band has to break, you know? So it's not like in the 70s where you'd sign like a 5-album development deal and then for Pink Floyd, like your 5th album is Dark Side of the Moon, but like those first 4 are really weird and you would have gotten dropped by your label way earlier than that.
Yeah.
So
and a lot of them have clauses like if you sell less than X records, like we're not even bothering with the rest of the albums on your contract. Like you're done. Like that's standard practice in industry still. But now with more avenues out there where you can work outside the system. I mean, just whether it's music, TV, sports stuff. I mean, look at us. We're talking on a primarily YouTube platform. Stuff to the extent and also the production value. You don't need to have as much of like crazy expensive recording equipment, a big setup, and also the barriers to entry of you can just make something cool. Like, yes, it makes a difference. Don't use the cheapest stuff you can find, but you can make something sound like you put a lot of money and effort into making it if you didn't as much, if you know how to do
what
that.
it is though? There was a certain charm to like the early stuff, like that Dinosaur Laser Fight.
Oh, there absolutely is.
And all the earlier stuff like that. There was I liked it from that perspective. Or like Dragon Slayer, which I know you redid as an animation. There was, like I said, this just chill charm of a bunch of people, that just got together and just did a thing. And then obviously you you, I know, understand the challenges that you had, especially when you were in New York trying to get this going, and your family was kind of like, there's a job at the post office, maybe it's better suited for you, that kind of thing. But no, it's hugely awesome to see what it's become over the last few years for you, especially now. I mean, obviously, I'm afraid to ask how many miles a year you travel at this point.
It's crazy. It's
150,000 easy.
Yeah, well, because it's the two projects, right? It's NSP and Game Grumps, and then like I have a couple of other bands.
Shadow Academy.
Yeah, thanks, man. That was like a big itch to scratch for me,
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely like the darker side of Dan Avidan almost, because it's just compared to everything else, it's got such an adult tone. It's got a very morose tone in some cases, like White Whale, but then you also have like Once and Nevermore, which kind of just like I could get high to Once and Nevermore and I could just drift off, man. You
That's
have
awesome.
no idea how much that hits.
No, that means a lot. It meant a lot to write it. I think it's just we all have every human being feels the entire spectrum of human being moods and experiences, and different types of I hate referring to NSP as art because it's so dumb, but like different
dumb stuff can be art. Dumb stuff can be fantastic.
The different artistic
it's about interpretation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. They bring out different parts of you, and it's different expressions of different emotions. So it's as long as it's honest, that I think people will connect with it. Because the fake stuff can definitely sell, but like I don't know. I feel like you can feel it at a certain point. Like they did this for the money, like this is these drums are quantized. These vocals are auto-tuned. This is just like created in a lab to sell units, which is fine. I mean, that's what pop
like
music
certain Britney Spears or Black Eyed Peas songs, which have repeating lyrics.
Yeah, and I don't want to like put any of them down because I couldn't do what they do. Like that's a whole nother level of stuff you have to deal with to be that famous and all that nonsense. But yeah, I'm glad I get to do what I want to do and just be able to keep the lights on at my house to do it.
Yeah, that's where we have the same goal, and it's very relatable. And also, like for the startup stuff, it's more relatable. Or like I list, like we're all from New Jersey, and even if you moved away from there, like it's still relatable. Like you're like there was a Game Grumps video you did years ago where you talked about the moving truck story. Like I was driving by Menlo Park with a mall with a U-Haul truck. I'm like, the first time I heard, I'm like, I know that spot. I know exactly where the story is going. It's going to end with a truck lodged under an overpass.
No question. And I mean, I'm just being in Jersey. I was at the Union Plaza Diner on Route 22, and I was like,
now the Union Diner, can't call it
Plaza.
Yeah,
that's right, they did rebrand. They did, but it's the same on the inside, which is what matters. And yeah, I was just like, man, this is home. No matter what, this is always home. But yeah, so thanks for helping me connect the roots a little bit.
Always, man.
Yeah. Now, I did want to have one music question for Dan. This is simply because this is maybe a trend I've been seeing lately. Now, after all the music groups that you've been connected to, whether it be Shadow Academy, NSP, Starbomb, Night Ranger, all of that, I've also seen a lot of YouTubers going into the Broadway spectrum. You have Brental Floss with his off-Broadway Trek musical. You've had Matt Pat co-producing Grey House, which is
from Try Guys,
a very big hit.
Yeah.
What are the chances, say maybe in the long run, that we might get a Dan Avidan or a Ninja Sex Party Broadway musical?
Oh, quite slim, I think.
Boy. Oh no.
I don't know if Book of Mormon was already too rough for some people.
Yeah.
It'd be very off Broadway.
But I feel like that would be like the final plateau, really.
Yeah, I mean that I've never thought about it. It's a very cool idea. I don't know who would play me or our characters because
Finn Wolfhard.
Yeah,
Just go right to Finn on that one.
he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I never gave it much thought just because that's a type of singing that I don't have the training or understanding of. Like, I go to see Broadway shows. My wife loves Broadway, and I go to see Broadway shows, and I'm like, I'm 10 feet away from them, and I do not know what they're doing. Like, I do not know how they're producing the sounds that they produce. They're just amazing athletes too, to be running around and singing like that. So I never thought about it, but perhaps you've just planted a seed, which will someday be a forest.
Yeah.
No, if I've planted the seed and something grows perfectly fine, just let me get a couple of acorns off that tree. That's all that matters.
Yeah, just 45% off the top. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
I'm not a greedy man by
It's brought to you
far.
by Stream Punk Entertainment.
No.
It costs us a few shekels.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or not. If whatever falls off the tree.
But I can understand how you would say that it's like not necessarily like your forte. But then again, I also think about, you know, the collaborative efforts of people that have gone ahead and made music like that. Like I think back to like Elton John when he started collaborating with people, and it's like, you know, if you can find like the right person with the expertise, I feel like it would be epic, because again, you've just had such a range of sounds over the years that you could incorporate a little bit of everything, and I think it would tell a great narrative. That's just my opinion.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I will you know, and this coming year is going to be our 15th anniversary, believe it or not, of NSP. Yeah, because we started in 2009.
The pandemic really like hastened things.
Yeah, it flies by. But yeah, so I guess after 15 years, you do need to start branching out and looking at new things or new angles. So
the guys from South Park did Book of Mormon.
Yeah, they're
amazing. They were always in musicals.
Now they're running
Orgasmo or all the rest, you know. Or,
yeah. Who would have looked at Orgasmo and thought these guys are going to be like the premier satirists of our time?
Dude, I remember their episode of Time Warped when it came out, like in 1995, and I remember looking at it thinking, these guys are going to go nowhere. This thing sucks. And that was my comment when I watched it. It's like, freaking call that one.
It's really funny. It's really funny. They're great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when you look at something like Cannibal the Musical when it was first started, and it was like,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's no. And now it's like, now it's like cult classic right up there with like Repo the Genetic Opera and stuff. It's just like one of those things where, you know, if you hear the melody, you're like, oh my God, you know what that is?
Yeah. Well, we'll probably wrap it up on this, but I don't know if you saw the video, but Matt Stone played with Rush on the 25th anniversary. That was, dude, I love that. I love that video for that part.
Huge Rush fan. Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled for them. Those two guys deserve the best. I'm still Neil Peart dying was the most I've ever felt for the death of someone I've never met personally, you know. So you just want the people who create the stuff that makes you happy to have long, happy lives, you know. So that really hurt, and I just hope Getty and Alex are just out there having a great time.
They probably are. Dan, I want to let you go, but thank you, man. You're awesome as always. I appreciate. Love to do this again once you get through maybe like Games Grump Live and everything like that, because you're going into Canada, out of Canada, back into Canada.
And in Jersey, October 4th.
Yeah. By the way, he and I will be there for that too, just to let you know.
Yeah.
Oh, killer.
In Red Bank. So
let's meet up.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
will schlep myself over.
Absolutely. So
very cool.
Dude, thank you as always.
Steph is coming along. She's the one that introduced me to you, and as I said, no.
Oh, that's rad. Yeah, just be
been helping us out so much.
My pleasure, and it's cool, and maybe we'll talk during the playoffs and discuss where the team's at.
Yeah, we'll know more by that point, I'm sure.
Someone can explain to me why there was so much Jersey hate. You know, I'll appreciate that.
Listen, anybody who lives in not Jersey pretty much hates Jersey. It kind of sucks that way. So,
we like it that way.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, us against the world kind of thing.
Yeah. At least we have that. Yeah.
Yes. So,
all right, you guys take care.
Thank you, man. Be good.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Great talking to you.
Take care.
You're awesome.